Welcome back.
What's going on, people?
How's it going? First and Inch is back at you. Little hiatus for us, right? A little bit.
I mean, it seems that we go on...
go on hiatuses, yeah. We're like the Beatles.
Yeah, we seem to go on benders. And
our schedules haven't been lining up recently as well. You know, this isn't our life. We just do this for fun.
We want to make this our life.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Like and comment, subscribe before this video starts.
Yeah, let's get that out of the way. Let's put that in the algorithm. Like, comment, subscribe.
That would be pretty cool.
We're going to have a fun video for you today.
Yeah, we are.
It's
a good one.
Coming to the end of the NFL season, right? Draft season is upon us. All the bowl games are happening. You hear all these guys opting out. Blah, blah, blah.
The declares
yes,
and all that crap.
It's draft season.
Everyone's excited.
If your team's not in the playoffs, you're looking... We're Giants fans here. I've been looking at these quarterbacks since October.
And especially if you're a dynasty owner. And then you didn't make the playoffs. You're looking at these guys.
Yeah, I tanked on all my dynasty teams this year. I've been looking at high schoolers, basically.
You've been looking at through a very fine lens
at
this point, trying to comb through all this talent.
Yeah, well, this is a very good wide receiver class, and that's what we're going to get into today. We're going to have our own top 10 list wide receivers coming out this year into the NFL draft. I guess this list is kind of based in fantasy football a little bit, right?
It's definitely dynasty oriented.
Somewhat, yeah. We made this list like kind of trying to be a little bit predictive also of where these guys end up being drafted. We took that into account try to take that into account as well.
Yeah, I mean,
but there's also personal preference on this list from both of us. We agreed on a 10, and this is going to be our list.
Yeah, things will change with.
Oh yeah, we'll probably have one guy on here way too low or one guy on here way too high.
Draft capital will change.
We'll find out more. This is very early. This is premature, but I think this is a good time to do it. Right? We'll get ahead of it. Maybe we have a good take. We have a little fun with it, right?
We could either look like geniuses or fools, like
yes.
Classic First and Inches style, baby.
Yeah, that's a First and Inches way. We either look very good or very stupid.
We always just make takes, though. So.
Yeah, that's the whole point. We're having fun. Let's get right into it. Yeah. Before we get into the lists. This receiver class is might be the best top to bottom I've seen in my life. I think
since I've been following sports closely, easily the one I've.
Yeah, I mean 2014 comes to mind when you think of receiver classes, obviously.
But this one has the opportunity to go to the next level. In my opinion, I think there's 12 or 14 guys.
This class is deep.
That could be game changers.
Yeah, once we got past the top 3, which we both agree, I think most people would agree the top 3 this year is pretty obvious.
Mm-hmm. But after that, it's
it's preference, and we don't know. Yeah, exactly.
There's so many things that factor in. We're just going with
our eyes and what we think will end up happening, right?
Yeah.
Let's get into the honorable mentions first. These are the guys that like we said, this class is very deep. We couldn't include everyone in the top 10.
Mm-hmm.
We were going to talk about these guys a little bit that we like. You start off. The two guys that your honorable mentions, I like.
I got Devontae Walker out of UNC. I think he could be
a
stud.
He just missed the top 10 for us.
Just missed the top 10.
Missed the top 10 for us.
He's still great, don't get me wrong. I think this guy has elite acceleration, top speed.
Yeah, a lot of these guys would not be the 11th receiver off the board in many other classes. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, exactly. So his yards after catch skills are very impressive to me. I think he's honestly kind of a bull.
He's very explosive. He reminds me of Christian Watson watching him play.
And his catch radius is unbelievable.
Yeah. He's 6'4". He's a big boy.
215.
Yeah, he's super explosive when you watch him play.
For his size, it's very impressive to see how somebody of that nature could move like he does.
Yeah, his yak is crazy for his size. He's a pretty good ball tracker too, from what I can tell.
Yeah, I just really like his. If you could,
his hands are all right, but a lot of these bigger guys usually aren't the greatest hands catchers. Just the way.
But they're big playmakers. That's what it is.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah. If you get this guy in the open field, it's a problem. I like him a lot. He seems like a very interesting prospect.
Yeah.
Also, with the whole thing that happened with him this year with his eligibility, I'm curious to see where he ends up going in the actual NFL draft as well.
Me too. If he goes to a good spot, honestly, the sky's the limit with this guy. Devontae Walker, first honorable mention. You hit the second honorable mention.
Ricky Pearsall, wide receiver, Florida. I mean, just watching him play, man, he's very sudden. He's a good route runner. He's pretty big. He's like 6'1", 200. He's built. Great hands. I mean, just
very reliable hands.
Yes. Watching him play last year, watching Anthony Richardson tape, he was the only receiver that consistently showed up watching Anthony Richardson play. I just think he's going to end up being good. He's a very good route runner. He's been productive. I don't know. Just watching him play, I'm like, oh, this guy's good.
Yeah, and you usually
Just a
have
gut
a decent
feel.
eye for receivers, in my opinion. So
I think he's going to be a good player.
when you throw a shot out like that, I kind of tend to believe you.
I think, yeah. I just like the way he runs routes. He's very sudden in his movements. He's the way he paces his routes is good. He looks like a guy who's a veteran. He doesn't look like a college player running routes. I think he'll translate well into the NFL. I think he'll fall. I think he'll fall a little bit because he's not the biggest. I don't know how well he'll test.
He's also not a big name, which is like...
Yeah, well, Florida wasn't really that good.
Yeah, they probably didn't have as much NFL scouting as years prior.
Teams weren't really locking in on Graham Mertz this year.
Yeah, I don't
so, Ricky Pearsall, honorable mention number 1. Give me your second honorable mention. A guy we both like, and
it was hard to make this list, guys.
This list was confused. It was a tough exercise trying to rank these guys in some order.
Just try to fit a square into a circle hole.
Yeah,
That's basically what it is.
It's very preference based after the third receiver, I feel like.
Exactly. So my honorable mention number 2 is Jalen Polk. He's the wide receiver on Washington.
Dog.
Guy's got amazing hands. He's very consistent with his catching technique. It's always off his body. He's very very hands.
I love a hands catcher.
So
I'm not the biggest fan of receivers who are body catchers.
Me neither.
I did take Quentin Johnson in a dynasty league this year. Disclaimer. The landing spot tricked me. But watching his tape, you could tell he never really caught with his hands. He wasn't super physical for his size. Great yak for his size, but never really used his size to his ability. That's beyond the point.
Yeah, back to Jalen Polk. I don't think he has elite speed, but I do think he has above average speed.
Anytime I watch Washington, he's making plays.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
I'm not
he's
going
a
to
good
say
player.
he's a true burner, but I think he's a good stretch the field guy.
Game speed is also very different than running in your underwear.
Agree. I feel like he's faster laterally.
Yeah, that's
on
what
his
you
cuts,
want in a wide
so-
receiver. That's what you want. Using that lateral speed is how you get open on in breaking routes, out breaking routes.
I agree. I think this guy's a great pick. Jalen Polk, Washington.
My second honorable mention. I mean, if you watch college football, you know this guy, Ladd McConkey, wide receiver, Georgia.
White boy, right?
White boy. I got 2 white boys. Kind of the same reason I like Pearsall. He's not big at all. He's very small, actually, but he's even more so. He's super twitchy. He's always open. Like, you watch him play, he's just dusting dudes.
Does he remind you of Wes Welker?
No, I don't know who I didn't really think of a comp for Ladd. I think Ladd's comp is Ladd.
Yeah, Ladd McConkey.
I think he's going to be a baller. He's also another guy who's a very good route runner. A lot of the receivers in this class are kind of just like super freak athletes that are a bit raw in their route running.
Mm-hmm.
Ladd McConkey is super twitchy, good route runner.
He's your
always
technician.
open. Ladd McConkey is my technician. That boy, nice.
Yeah, I like that.
His X drip is off the charts. But that being said, those are our honorable mentions. Let's get right into the list. We're going to start from the top because, like we mentioned before, it's pretty easy 1, 2, and 3, I think.
Yeah, it's not even. You're not going to talk about it that much. It's not what you came here to see.
No, you didn't come here to see us talk about
Marvin Harrison Jr.
Marvin Harrison Jr., yes.
So
That being said, number 1 receiver, Marvin Harrison Jr., Ohio State. Don't really need to talk about this guy much. If you've watched college football in the last 2 years, you know this guy's the fucking alien.
I mean, when you have the blood of a legend in you,
I'm a believer in the bloodline for sure. It helps,
especially when he's that good already. Like,
yeah,
I can't even.
I mean, 6'4", prototypical build,
soft hands.
I mean, the way his feet for his size are just. I don't think I've seen a guy his size be able to move the way he does in and out of his routes.
He's like the size of AJ Brown with like the technician of like who?
Bro, I don't even know what the comp.
There's no comp.
There's no comp for this guy. He's
ginormous.
I would argue this is the best receiver prospect we've seen since Calvin Johnson, probably.
Yeah, easily.
I think a lot of people are making that claim. Yeah, I mean, this guy is the second rookie pick this year in Dynasty. He's a monster. I think he's bust proof. Knock on wood. Outside of major injuries.
Yeah, which you can never
predict, obviously. Yeah. But he's an alien. He is truly an alien. 6'4", route running of fucking Antonio Brown. He's crazy. He's going to be a monster in the NFL.
I agree.
Now let's talk about your guy number 2. You love this guy.
Yeah,
I love this guy is a player.
Our number 2 receiver is Malik Nabers, number 1 out of LSU.
would be a number one receiver in
Yeah.
plenty of other draft classes.
I think he'd be the number one receiver in the last 10 classes.
Maybe other than Jamar Chase.
I'm taking Neighbors over Chase. I'm being so serious.
That's a crazy take.
I'm saying it right now on First and Inches, Neighbors over Chase in that draft.
All right.
I'm not saying now because obviously Chase
Jamar's
has produced in the NFL. But, like, if they were in the same class, Neighbors is the better prospect to me.
Well,
the way that he has the top off speed that this guy
he's
has.
a freak show.
It kind of opens up the whole field for him to do cuts and these corners cannot.
His body control is crazy too. He's a burner who can make the contested catch. He does everything well.
And he's ginormous.
Yeah, he's a big boy. A lot, like we said, a lot of these guys do have that prototypical outside NFL wide receiver build.
When you're 200 pounds and move like that,
Yeah,
it's almost
he's not built like Marvin, but not too many guys.
Nobody's ever built like Marvin before. It's almost unfair to compare them.
No, that's the thing. Neighbors would be the receiver one in most of the draft classes in the last 10 years, probably almost all of them.
And I think Neighbors is the number 2 also because no matter where he goes, I think he could play anywhere XYZ. No matter throw him,
he's gonna be a baller.
You throw him in a safety position. This guy's fucking.
Yeah, put him at corner. Put him at corner.
Yeah. So Neighbors number 2,
and number 3, my guy personally, Rome Odunze, Washington wide receiver. I mean, another big guy. I believe he's 6'3". Another guy who doesn't make sense how he moves for his size. I think he'll run sub 4.4, low key, low 4.4s.
Dude,
he's gonna burn. He's gonna test well. Great route runner, great hand, great body control, does everything well.
Attributes-wise, he's the perfect prospect.
Yes.
Height, size,
also,
speed.
another guy who would probably be a wide receiver one in plenty of other draft classes.
Easily.
He's a monster. You watch any Washington game, he's like, O'Doon, 7 for 105 and a touchdown. It's like, okay.
Yeah, he's
a producer. He was a kind of a late breakout guy, which I know will scare off a lot of the analytics people, dynasty people, which I understand. It is predictive. If you're good throughout your college career, you're probably just really good.
Yeah.
But he also had a weird injury his sophomore year. All the COVID shit. I'm not buying into any of that with Rome Odunze. I watch this guy play, and I'm just like, he's going to be an absolute problem in the NFL next year.
Me too. I think he's going to be a seamless transition as well.
Let me say that I'm going to have this as a take.
Yeah.
He will be the number 1 scoring rookie fantasy wide receiver next season.
I could see it.
Because I don't know. Harrison and Neighbors will probably go high. I don't know if they'll have the best quarterbacks next year.
That's fair.
I think Rome Odunze will be the best rookie wide receiver in fantasy next year.
You think he has that perfect middle ground where he'll get drafted?
He'll get drafted high enough, but yeah, he'll get drafted high and to a half-decent spot, I feel like. That's my take. And I think he'll just be a PPR monster. I think he'll just be all over the field.
I like that actually a lot.
Yeah, like we said, top 3, pretty consensus at this point. Everyone, even the draft analysts.
No one knows what's going on now. It's December.
No, but
30th.
I'm saying the top 3. The top 3 is consensus at this point. This is where it gets interesting. Like we said, this is all preference. So number 4, we put Brian Thomas from LSU.
The number 2 receiver LSU.
Yeah, would be a number 1 most other programs in the nation, but
Easily.
has to play with Malik Neighbors. Still went for, 1,200 yards, 15 touchdowns this year.
He's one of the reasons why the LSU's offense was that good this year.
Yeah.
It wasn't all Neighbors, and as much as I love Neighbors, Brian Thomas.
Yeah, they had Daniels and 2 first-round wide receivers.
Yeah.
So
he's another burner.
Seems
like
another prototypical build guy, 6'3", 6'4".
It's like they're being made out of a lamb.
Yeah, this receiver class is crazy. Brought another prototypical outside guy who can burn. I think he'll be a beast in the NFL as well. I mean, you watch his tape; he's just always open down the field making plays. He's maybe not the greatest route runner, but a lot of these guys, when they're not. It's kind of harder for them to be as fluid as a Tank Dell when you're fucking 6'4", 210.
It's almost impossible. The only guy that could do that is Marvin, and that's why he's
He's an alien.
Receiver of our freaking generation.
That's the receiver prospect of our generation. Yes. Brian Thomas 4, I mean, he just shows up on tape whenever you watch him, I feel like.
Yeah. I'm in total agreement with him there. I think that it's a pretty safe spot to put him, but I could see him moving 1 or down 2.
Yeah, like we said, 4 through 10, who knows? But we put him 4 because I think he'll get the draft. I think he'll end up being the 4th wide receiver taken in the actual draft because of his size. He produced well last year. LSU has a great history with wide receivers.
Yeah,
I think he'll be a guy. I think he'll be a guy that flies up draft boards. I mean, kind of not being talked about as much as some of these other players, but I think a guy that will be probably the 4th receiver taken. I'll say that right now. He'll be the fourth receiver gone off the board come April in the NFL draft.
I could agree with that, but I could also see this next guy, number 5, Troy Franklin,
Yes.
wide receiver, Oregon, could easily
Absolute
be number
player.
4.
Talk about Troy Franklin a little bit.
When I watch Troy Franklin, I think of the most fluid possible player.
He reminds me of Tank Dell, but like 5 inches taller.
He reminds me of like a knife cutting through.
He's
like
he's a dog, bro. He's gonna be he's a beast.
You put him in the open field. This guy's dangerous. It's tough to tackle him.
Great route runner.
Elite balance.
He's a freak.
I think that this guy has the opportunity, like you said, carve out a Tank Dell role.
My comp for him would be Tank Dell with a little bit better size, and he's faster. I think straight line speed than Tank Dell was.
No, he is, and basically, the worry about him is his size. But like me and Obi always talk about, size in the NFL today.
It's more his weight than his size. Yes. He's 6'3", but he's I don't even think he's 190. I think we looked up.
He's 180 soaking wet.
Yeah, 185. He's probably 175.
Yeah.
But a lot of these smaller, twitchy receivers have been thriving.
You can't jam him anymore. So.
No, you can't play as physical at the line anymore. There's a lot of rules to protect these wide receivers. So these smaller guys are way more protected than they would have been 10 years ago. Tank Dell might not have gotten drafted 10 years ago.
I don't think he would have.
Or 15 years ago.
He wouldn't have
even
accurate, been a question.
He wouldn't have been a third-round pick 15 years
because
ago.
Obviously Troy Franklin can't block. I mean, he's not going to be.
You're not putting Troy Franklin on the field to stalk block.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So there's the downside for him, but. We
can
move on from there. I don't want to talk too much.
I would say
maybe.
I think he's the twitchiest receiver in the class. The way he moves is crazy. His
Watch
game.
Some highlights if you haven't. It's unbelievable.
I mean, I think putting him as the fifth receiver over some of these other guys that people talk about is a bit of a hot take.
But
I don't really think so. I
it.
agree. I think he's a top 5 receiver.
If you watch him for any amount of time, you're like, wow, this guy is special.
Yeah, he's a dog. He is a playmaker. I think he'll end up. I think teams will buck the weight, and I think he could be a first-round pick.
Yeah, I totally agree. This next guy you freaking love.
I've been on this guy
forever
since
right?
last year. Yeah, I mean, watching Ohio State obviously
since
a lot.
This guy was sucking on freaking pacifiers.
Yeah, I was following him in high school. I was at his junior varsity championship game. But Emeka Egbuka, Ohio State, another university that just 3D prints NFL wide receivers along with LSU. This guy just kind of reminds me of Chris Olave in his play style. Mm-hmm. Another guy I love coming out. Very smooth, pretty big. I mean, pretty stocky. He's kind of has a little bit of Jackson Smith and Jigba in his game as well. But
he very much reminds me of JSN. That's like my similar. Like when I think of Egbuka, I think of
JSN might be a little. I don't know if he's as quick laterally as JSN is.
JSN could be quicker, but I think they run routes very well.
Yeah, I think JSN is a good comp for him. Also, I like JSN more as a player coming out. Still,
is Egbuka a little bit bigger than JSN?
I think
he appears a little bit bigger.
He is pretty thickly built for a wide receiver.
That's what I'm saying. Like he looks big,
but he's fast. They say he runs sub 4.4. I mean, this year's been weird for him. He's had an injury-prone year. Doesn't look the same as he did last year, but
Ohio State, they had a terrible year. I don't think that team.
Terrible for their standards. Obviously, they went from C.J. Stroud to Kyle McCord. That's not going to be the same.
Who they just literally let walk with no problem. So
yeah,
it's just like,
exactly. I'm not taking anything into account with his year this year. Really, if you look at his tape last year, he looked like one of the best receivers in the nation. Emeka Egbuka, wide receiver 6 this year. I think he'll get good enough draft capital as well and be a player. I think he'll be a PPR machine in fantasy.
Me too. I think he'll be one of those 6+ reception guys a game
every week.
Yeah.
He'll be a blanket. He'll be a consistent 5-6 catches every week type.
Especially
if with a higher ceiling for sure. I think he could be a consistent 100-catch player in the NFL.
That's a hot take, but yeah.
I don't think it's really that hot of a take.
Just for a rookie to come out and say this guy's going to be a 100 receiver.
Maybe not his rookie year. I just think he'll develop. I think he'll end up being that type of player who's you can count on for 100 catches every year.
I think that's fair. He also has the name factor. Pretty sick name.
Emeka Egbuka is a sick fucking name.
I could hear Chris Collinworth screaming that out.
Yeah.
For a touchdown.
Yeah. Emeka Egbuka. Wow. The name test, he does pass on that. Number 7. Do you think this guy passes the name test?
I don't think so, dude.
I don't know, but watching him play, I don't give a shit, really. Xavier Legette, wide receiver, South Carolina. Number 7 for us. Mm-hmm. Dude, all these guys are kind of just fucking freak shows, right? we sound repetitive, but you look at all these guys are 6'3", 6'4", burners.
What I've got from this
SEC.
guy, the catches he makes are incredible.
Yeah, he makes circus catches.
He makes legit like he goes up and he gets that fucking ball.
Yeah, I feel like this might be the receiver we have that makes us look like an idiot putting him as the 7th.
But hey, we put him in the top 12. Like we said,
yeah.
4 to 12.
This is all preference. This is the one that scares me the most. I feel like having him at 7, we could look a little dumb come next season with that. But we included him regardless. Mm-hmm. He's a monster. I really do think a lot of these guys go in the first round.
Yeah, I think we have 6 to 8.
Yeah, I think that feels pretty comfortable.
That's honestly, if you think about that, that's insane.
Yeah, a quarter of the first round being wide receivers. I think it happens. And then I think you get another 7. You could get another 6 to 8 in the second round as well.
Wow. So fantasy might look a little bit different next year.
There's going to be a lot of impactful wide receivers coming to the NFL next year. Yes.
So if you're playing fantasy, I think it's very prudent of you
especially in Dynasty,
wide receivers that are coming out.
Yeah. This is a class that even some of these later guys you'll get value on next year. I don't think Emeka Egbuka is going to be a super high redraft fantasy pick, right? I wouldn't think. Unless he just happens to go
7th round.
Not even, I don't think.
8th round.
Depends on where he goes. I mean, if he went to the Chiefs, he'd get gassed up. But a lot of that depends on landing spot. I'm just saying, he won't be an expensive fantasy player next year.
Yeah, no chance. Yeah, so basically...
But we're talking about Xavier Legit. You have some nice notes on Legit. I want to hear you.
What I wrote, I said, I really think this guy could accelerate 0 to 60 very quickly.
Yeah, I think he's a player.
He has the top-off speed. He's very flexible, so I think he could really hit routes different than other people could. Mm-hmm. So, like, if, say, he's running on that vertical route, he's more likely to just stop on a dime.
Yeah,
Bing.
He's sudden for his size.
So it's just like...
Good body control, man. A lot of these guys are kind of similar to me, I feel. It's hard for me to differentiate. It's also early. I haven't broken down all of the All-22 yet. I'm not fucking Mel Kiper over here.
We have lives here.
Yeah, we're just talking from what we watching college football, watching some tape on the internet. Where we think, what the buzz is, where they'll end up going. We're just trying to have some fun here.
Trying to bring it together as well.
And this next guy, kind of another hot take to have him this low, but I think this is a correct take.
Me too.
A bit. He gives me bust vibes a little bit, but I think it would be unfair to him and kind of dumb to not include him on this list.
I mean, he's an athletic freak.
Yeah, no, he'll go in the first round. He's going to go in the first round of the draft.
But what we were talking about like earlier in the day, that we think that a lot of his skill comes from being more athletic than everyone
He's going
else.
up against little ACC corners who are maybe 6th-round picks.
If you're going against Jalen Ramsey or like Tariq Woolen,
he's not going to have some of the reps he does against NFL.
Exactly, it's impossible.
Yeah,
that skill doesn't exist.
We're talking about Keon Coleman, Florida State.
Yes,
I mean another guy who's a freak of nature, 6'4", runs like a gazelle, but he seems a little stiff laterally to me. Just watching him, he's not really a good route runner. And like we said, a lot of his reps he wins just based off his pure athleticism.
He could be a red zone problem though, for sure.
No, I'm still kind of conflicted on how I feel about him. He does give me bust vibes somewhat. I just don't think he's really a good route runner. And like we said, I think a lot of his reps are just kind of him bullying ACC corners, being the freak. Also been playing. Yeah. He's a senior, I believe. Played in college for a while. But like I said, I think it would be malpractice to not include him on this list because he has made very explosive plays this year. Shined for Florida State. Florida State's 13-0 for a fucking reason.
It wouldn't be outrageous for him to actually be a producer in the NFL.
No, I'm not saying lock this guy stinks. If I thought he stunk, I wouldn't include him on the list.
No, I agree. 100%.
But he's an interesting prospect to me. I don't know. He's a very boom or bust prospect to me. I think a lot of people would agree with that. He seems like a bit of a project.
Yeah, but some teams might be willing to take that risk.
Many teams are going to be willing to take that risk. The dude's 6'4", will probably test out of the water at the combine.
Yeah,
I just don't think. Yeah, I don't really like his lateral movement skills. He's a little stiff to me.
We prefer kind of like crispier route running guys. And
I kind of tend to lean towards those guys a little bit because that's stuff that kind of translates in the NFL. If you can get open, you're going to be getting the ball a lot.
Yeah. And you can get
separation is king in the NFL. How many more so than in college when it's
Speed
Florida.
Kills. That's why
also,
Tyreek Hill is
how many
the greatest wide receiver.
How many jump balls are most NFL teams throwing every game?
2.
A couple.
3.
Yeah, I mean if you have an amazing receiver, obviously that number goes up. But you need to separate to consistently win in the NFL. So Keon Coleman 8.
I'm in that train as well.
I think he's an interesting prospect. I'm curious to follow his draft process because I think he could go really high. I think he could also slip down to like the second round. I really don't know where he'll end up going.
I think it's going to come down to
a lot of these guys, man. Troy Franklin. I don't know. Teams might be scared off of his weight, even though he is an electric player. Watching him,
like Troy Franklin is kind of like my most excited person to see what happens with him.
Yeah, I agree because he's an interesting prospect because he's obviously very good. You watch him play productive.
The sky's the limit, but like
the size plays a role. A lot of NFL teams will probably just cross him off the board completely because he's 180.
Yeah, but
so
I think that's unfair. But
that's his team's process.
Yeah.
And
let's move on.
Yeah, we'll do the last two as a group package because they are a group package in real life as well. Currently, we have the two Texas wide receivers here: Adonai Mitchell, number 9, Xavier Worthy, number 10. We kind of agreed Mitchell over Worthy on this, just because
we think he's a little more NFL ready.
Yeah, well, yes, he's a very good route runner for his size. He's more of a prototypical size. I think the size is really what differentiates them in terms of an NFL prospect. Mitchell's a tall outside receiver. Worthy's 160-pound soaking wet burner type guy.
They're both fluid as shit.
Yes, Worthy's. I feel people kind of label Worthy as a burner, which I think is a little bit unfair because he is a very good route runner. But same with A.D. Mitchell, man. The transfer from Georgia. If Georgia and Texas both want you to play for their programs, you're probably a pretty good football player. If I had to take a guess. Also watching him play, his guy's always open, making plays. Texas, one of the best teams in the country this year. They're in the playoff. These two guys are a huge reason why.
Yeah, they are just that's an unbelievable core that they have there.
That's going to completely fall apart after the season, but that's beyond the point.
Both these guys have great attributes to themselves. I think that Worthy is easily the better route runner, but where Mitchell has the better body type for the NFL.
Yeah, I feel like Mitchell always just shows up too, making plays. I feel like anytime I watch Texas, Mitchell's catching a touchdown.
No, I 100%.
Guys all over the field.
Worthy, back to Troy Franklin, Worthy's like 160 pounds.
Worthy's lighter than Troy Franklin.
But people don't really talk about that much. But
no. But Worthy also has that very obvious like Tyreek Hill level speed.
I agree.
Like,
he's going to be good.
He has the best. Yeah, I agree. I think he's going to be a good player. His game speed is some of the best I've seen in the last couple of years, I would argue.
Yeah. No, I'm in total
Once
agreement.
he goes, he's going. You're not catching that guy.
And he definitely passes the name test. Xavier Worthy, that
sick. Also a sick NFL
that might
name.
Be the greatest
X-Man.
name in the draft.
Yeah. No, the coolest name in the draft is Romo Dunes.
I don't know.
Romeo Dunze. Sick.
All right, so that was the top 10.
Top 10. Well, actually, we've mentioned 14 guys in this video. But
top 10
top
plus
10.
The honorable mentions.
Yeah, our first and inches honorable mentions. Thank you guys for watching. Like we said before, like, subscribe, call me a dumbass in the comments.
Yeah, just leave a comment. We want to know what you think.
Yeah, we had fun doing this. This was a fun exercise to break down a little bit because it is a very, very deep wide receiver class.
And things can go either way. But, so see you guys later.
Yeah.
Peace.
Hey.